Bills. I love their offensive line. I think their depth at the defensive line is really good. My only concern is how Terrell Bernard's going to play at middle linebacker, but the talent is there. I think the Buffalo Bills are going to be one of these surprise teams, if not surprise team this year. It feels like they're due for a big year. I mean, you could argue Allen Mahomes are 1A, 1B in terms of arm strength. I would argue between Allen Mahomes and Burrow, the accuracy advantage goes to Mahomes. You can make the durability advantage goes to Josh Allen. But I would argue just in terms of sheer overall arm talent, Mahomes and Allen are 1A and 1B right now.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
There is a quarterback in college because Mahomes and Allen can both throw at 75 yards. There is a quarterback in college that can throw at 80 yards. Joe Milton. I'm not sure if he'll end up on an NFL team, but he might surpass Allen and Mahomes in arm talent as a rookie next year. So that's just a name to keep an eye on. He did pretty good for Tennessee against Virginia on Saturday. So let's break down the next division.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Joe. I'm actually a fan of Joe Milton heading in. So we'll see. Hopefully he puts some good numbers. But let's go to the NFC East. Obviously, you have the Eagles. Obviously the runner-up heading into the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts giving him a big contract with the Eagles. And then you have the Cowboys there as well. Then you have the Commanders went through a new ownership, Josh Harris and with his investors and Matty Johnson. And with them, then Ron Rivera being being in the hot seat. Then you have Sam Hall when he's starting quarterback. Eric Bieniemy becoming the offensive coordinator. Then for the Cowboys, you have Mike McCarthy going to be calling the plays. Kellen Moore is out. Went to the LA Chargers. So it's going to be really interesting for the Cowboys in that division. And then for the Giants, the main question is, are they overachievers? That's basically what the $1 million question is. They paid Daniel Jones some good money. So we'll see how that pans out. And they did draft defense with Jalen Hyatt. So out of Tennessee, they got Barkley on a deal. He's coming back. So this is gonna be really this division is really interesting. But obviously, it's one of the best divisions in football according to last year in terms of the record. But I look at Philly, the way they drafted, really good. I look at the Cowboys. To me, what the Cowboys is it boils down for me is, can Dak Prescott take that next step in the playoffs? And to be quite honest with you, when I look at Dak, I felt like Kellen Moore's play calling when they played against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year. I felt like his play calling really won the game. To be honest with you. And then with the Commanders could surprise some people, but it just depends on how healthy Chase Young is going to be. And I believe he's questionable or doubtful to play week 1 due to his health. And to see what Sam Howell does, and with that team, and then with the Giants, I'm just afraid that can they keep that same energy and intensity from last year for making the playoffs and actually win the game in Minnesota heading in. So this division is really interesting. So what is your assessment of the whole division?
These are all great points, Emmanuel. And I'm looking at Dallas. I think they are the team to beat.
I can't hear you. You're speaking too far up.
Sorry about that. I went to get a drink for a second, but
okay.
But yeah, I'm looking at the Dallas Cowboys. I think their running back depth. They're going to have Pollard, Rico Dowdle, Deuce Vaughn. Really ways to overwhelm the opposing defense with their running game. I love their receiving core. They've got 2 number 1s. Brandon Cooks was a number 1 in Houston for a few years. Michael Gallup. You got the tight end room, Jake Ferguson, and their 2nd round pick out of Michigan, Luke Schoonmaker. And Mozzie Smith is going to start as a rookie to Marcus Lawrence. I think that defense line's playing against. And I love the cornerback of Stephon Gilmore. I think Dallas is going all in this year as madly as any in the league. Dallas is beating this division. Go team, or do you just – because I've got other thoughts on the other 3 NFC East teams, or do you just want to break down every team in the division at once?
Yeah, you can break down each team in the division. Yeah, you can go for it.
Yeah, so I have Dallas and both. I have common opponents, Philadelphia 9-3. So Dallas ends up taking the NFC East. And he's by this at 7-10 and the Commanders at 4-13. I think it's good. I think the Commanders take care of business on Sunday, but outside of that, it could be a long year for them. Because I mean, you look at the York 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the first 11 weeks. That is never left, according to Warren. I think one other team in the 90s had that type of schedule, 7 road teams in the first 10 weeks. Nobody's had to face 7 first 11 weeks. That is brutal. And I think that puts a dagger in the New York Giants season. I mean, they're lucky their first road opponent is the Cardinals. So if they steal the Sunday night game against Dallas, there is the outside possibility you're 2-0 heading into week 3 against San Francisco. But, you know, the Giants could beat the Cowboys at home when Cooper Rush was in quarterback. So what makes you think they're going to attack? I'm down on the Giants, and yeah, they added Deontay Banks. But it turns out both the corners they drafted are on the outside, and they might be moving Adoree Jackson over to nickel. I think that works greatly in Dallas's favor if the Giants are starting to rookie corner. I think that works tremendously in Dallas's favor on Sunday. And I'm not saying those guys are progress. Giants are starting a 6th-round rookie at corner on the outside, and that's just going to Dotson, Devonta Smith, Brandon Cooks, whoever's going up against that rookie corner, have a field day. Matchups favor those other receivers. Maybe that player ends up surprising. Bills did the same thing. They started pick last year, and it turned out all right for them. So we'll see what happens with this Giants team. But you know, they after they face the Cardinals on the road, you go 3 Amazon Prime, you go to Miami. Sunday, you get 10 and 11 week 7 road teams in the first. That's just a brutal schedule, and Giants can overcome it. This is not a horrible football team, but that strength of schedule for the Giants is too massive to overcome.
That's fair. No, that's fair in terms of that. With me, I have the Eagles win division. Yeah. Chalk. Dallas gets the wild. Dallas will get the wild. And the Commanders will miss the playoffs. So I have 2 teams in NFC East making the Eagles and Cowboys. That's it for the AFC East. Go to the AFC North. Have the Cincinnati Bengals with Joe Burrow. I believe as well. Obviously, they have good skill guys with Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins. And then they got Joe Mixon came back and they restructured his deal. So he's really adamant and trying to win a championship for Cincinnati. Then, but the thing about Cincinnati is I'm just concerned with Burrow's health down the line with the offensive line in terms of the improvement. But for me, they're more of a wait and see. Pittsburgh, they got a good defense. Obviously, the main question is Kenny Pickett. Can he take his game to another level? I like the division. I like the additions on the was it Washington? One of the tight ends came from University of Georgia, Darnell Washington.
Darnell Washington. Yep, you got it.
Yeah, Darnell Washington is the tight end from Georgia. I like it. I like how they when they drafted him as well. They still got Pat Firemouth at tight end as well. George Pickens, he's like one of my breakout guys in terms of receiver heading into the season. Najee Harris, can they stay healthy? And obviously, the offensive line for Pittsburgh, can they step their game up and so Najee can have that great year out of the backfield? Obviously, I know Najee's very good at pass catching as well as run. Then you look at Cleveland with Deshaun Watson. He was suspended for the first 10 games of last season. Now he has a full season heading in here. He has Elijah Moore. He has Amari Cooper, Nick Chubb. Obviously, now he's like the sole bell cow of this team. No Kareem Hunt at all. And I know the offensive coordinator did say that they want to get Nick Chubb more involved in the passing game in terms of catching the ball out of the backfield, which I'm happy he's getting those opportunities, in terms of that. So this could be a huge year for Chubb. Myles Garrett, I like Myles Garrett. I think he's going to be one of the contenders, one of the defensive ends that could lead the league in sacks this upcoming season. Cleveland will be competitive, but they won't win the division. Baltimore, I love the upgrades they had, but they got the offensive coordinator Todd Monken from University of Georgia. He's the offensive coordinator there. They finally got Dobbins to camp. I don't know if they're still working on the deal, or they're confident they're going to work on the deal. Lamar, he's one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. They got OBJ. They drafted Zay Flowers. I like those additions. Bateman, hopefully he continues to stay healthy and boosted that receiving core. Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely. Isaiah Likely was probably one of the best backup tight ends in the league last year in terms of his production. To be honest with you.
Yes.
To be completely honest with you. But my concern, obviously, I'm a Ravens fan. I'm concerned with Baltimore is the second year, the cornerback position. Peters is gone, obviously.
Yep.
And they need to figure out a way. I know they did sign a corner. I'm not mistaken.
They've got Marlon Humphrey, but you're right, Emmanuel. They don't really have a number 2 corner across from Humphrey. You've got Rock Ya-Sin. They did bring in Ronald Darby from Denver.
There you go.
And they also brought in Clowney for depth to complement Ojabo. And they also have Owa and Odafio and Tyus Bowser starting. So Baltimore's not in a horrible situation, but they're not in a great situation either. And I wasn't a fan of the 2 corners they drafted in 2022 out of Houston and Alabama, Jalen Armour Davis and Demorius Williams. I was not a fan of those 2 corners the Ravens took out of Houston and Alabama in the 2022 draft. So for me, I think with Marlon Humphrey out of the lineup the first 2 games, there's a chance for Houston. I don't think Houston's going to beat Baltimore, but there's a chance for them. And then the Bengals should torch Baltimore without Humphrey in the lineup. The Bengals are going to have 2 number 1 receivers in Chase and Higgins, and the Ravens aren't going to have a number 1 corner. So I would not be surprised if Burrow gets 49 to 56 points in that week 2 contest, especially if the Bengals slip up in week 1 against the Browns. I would not be surprised if Burrow just puts on a clinic against the Ravens. It gets to the point where the Bengals are playing their second team by the 4th quarter. I would not be surprised if it got that ugly, to be completely honest with you. It just depends on how the injury report looks, how those teams look. But I've got the Ravens at 9-8 and last. I've got Pittsburgh and Cleveland both going 10-7. The Browns end up getting the 6th seed in the AFC. The Steelers end up missing the playoffs again, despite improving their record from 9-8 to 10-7. But hey, you can't really complain about that if you're a Steelers fan, because you get another easy strength of schedule in 2024. And by that point, Pickett, the rest of this team should be ready to break out. So I would not be complaining about that if I were a Steeler fan. And then you've got the Bengals. I have the Bengals winning this division at 12-5. I just think the Bengals, is still the team to beat. I love the Orlando Brown Jr. signing. They've extended Pratt and Logan Wilson, so they're going to be set at linebacker for a while. Everybody in the secondary seems to be healthy right now. Only injured Bengal right now at the moment is Lael Collins. Everybody else is fully healthy, though. So I think the Bengals are positioning themselves quite nicely. And I've got the Bengals winning this division at 12-5. And this is a team that if they can take care of business against the Browns, they could very easily be 6-0 heading into the bye. They get the Ravens and Rams at home, Titans on the road, Cardinals on the road, and Seattle at home before the bye week. And then they get 2 weeks to prepare for San Francisco during that bye week. It's a road game against the Niners. Then you get the Bills. So they get their bye week right before the 49ers and Bills. So it's a little early in the season, a little earlier than you'd like to have it, but you get it right before your two toughest opponents of the year, arguably. So it's a nice time to have it if you're a Bengal fan. You get the Chiefs in Week 17, too, before the Browns in Week 18. So there's a lot of intrigue and storylines that could be building up leading into that game.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. AFC North is always interesting because it's like one of the most physical divisions in football, my personal opinion, with the quality of defenses in that division, to be honest with you, as a collective. But call me crazy. I got Baltimore winning the division. Yeah, it was a surprise. But I got them at, I think I was like 11-6. I think I got them 11-6. I have the Bengals at 10-7. I think the Bengals gonna be good. I got them as a wild card. So
yeah, the Bengals kind of remind me of the Bills last year, Emmanuel. The reason I say that is they're getting the same hype the Bills got a year ago, and
you read my mind. I was going to mention that too later on.
And don't get me wrong, I think Super Bowl 59 New Orleans or Super Bowl 60 in San Francisco, that could be the year. One of those 2 years I could see Burrow lifting his first Lombardi, but I don't see it in Las Vegas this year. And I know Bengals fans want it to be this year. I don't think it's going to be this year personally. I think it'll either be next year or in 2025, 2026 when the 49ers host Super Bowl 60. I think one of those two will be the Bengals' first Super Bowl win in franchise history. It's coming. I just don't think it's coming this season.
Yeah, that's fair. But I do have Baltimore winning division, and I have Bengals getting the wild card. So I already mentioned my wild card. I mentioned Bengals, and I did mention AFC East. So yeah, I have the Bills. So I got Bengals and Bills as my wild card so far. Yeah, so that's it for that division. Now let's go to the NFC. NFC North.
Jets and Browns are my wild cards. But let's go to the North, NFC North. This is a fun division.
Yeah, I can't really put too much of a finger on it, but games are trending up. We're putting money for this. Some people are actually picking them to win the NFC.
Yes, Joey the coach winning the NFC and getting the Super Bowl. It's nuts. I think he had the Eagles at 14-3 and the Lions at either 14-3 or 15-2 on the year. So I think he had the Lions finishing not only with the NFC crown, but the best regular season record on the year.
Oh yeah. See. So I've been seeing some people making bets in terms with the Lions. As a futures bet in terms of going to school and possibly winning. Yeah. They're at that 2,500 plus 2,500 is the current odds right now for Detroit Lions to win the Super Bowl. That's interesting, but I like where the Lions is going. Yeah, they did trade up and got Jamar Gibbs, the running back from Alabama. Originally came from Georgia Tech, transferred to Alabama. Then they have Jameson Williams. He's suspended for the first 6 games due to sports betting, if not mistaken. So that you have there. Amon-Ra St. Brown is probably one of the most consistent, underrated receivers in the NFL, my personal opinion, that nobody doesn't really talk about as much. And then they signed David Montgomery as well. So, and then I feel like Dan Campbell, he finally has a pulse of his team. and they're definitely trending in the right direction. And as long as the Lions play tough and they're able to run the football, it's going to take. And if I'm not mistaken, Jared Goff is one of the best efficient play action passers in the NFL.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. So he's so efficient. I think it goes back to when he was a quarterback with the Rams. When in play action, he was so efficient. So if he does that with this team, they can, that definitely can make some noise. Obviously, they play the home opener tomorrow in Kansas City for the season, for the kickoff of the NFL season. We'll get to that in a minute. But that's with the Lions. Now with the Packers, you have Jordan Love starting quarterback. Now they still have Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon in the backfield, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs. So they got Reed, I believe he's going to be third wide receiver. Luke Musgrave. Was it Musgrave?
Luke Musgrave, Oregon State tight end. Yeah, Packers second round pick.
Yes, he can. He's a guy I'm keeping my eye out on in terms of a tight end that could possibly break out.
Yeah. I took Luke Musgrave in the 17th round of Jason Bannell's Keeper League on Yahoo because Jason added a new keeper rule this year. So if you get a player you get the offensive rookie of the year in the 17th round, you can keep that player for up to 10 seasons. So my strategy was let's get George Kittle in round 4. And then by round 9, I decided my backup to George Kittle is going to be Luke Musgrave because Musgrave plays the Rams in week 9 when Kittle's on his bye week. So really, I can just stash him. And if I get the next Rob Gronkowski or the next Travis Kelce, I don't have to draft another tight end for 10 years. So
yeah, absolutely. You can't go wrong with that. Also, I do like Sam Laporta because I believe he
has
the tight end position on lock. I've been targeting him.
Peter King kept raving about Laporta in Lions camp this year, so you might be right about that. I mean, I think it's going to be a definitely interesting division. I've got the Vikings and Bears both at 7 and 10. I've got the Packers as my wild card 2 at 9 and 8. So the Eagles are my wild card 1 at 13 and 4. I've got the Packers at 9 and 8. And yes, the sound effects are necessary because it's such a bold prediction to predict Jordan Love will pick up right where Aaron Rodgers left off with these weapons. I know Dobbs and Watson are currently dealing with hamstring injuries, according to Packers. They didn't practice today, but I think the Packers front 7 is going to be really good. They added more depth on the defensive line with Carl Brooks, Colby Wooten. I think the Packers are going to be a fun team to watch, and I have the team at 9 and 8 winning the NFC North, the Detroit Lions, who are my 3 seed. So it actually sets up a Packers versus Lions wild card game, and that would be something.
Wow. I have a breakout star for the Packers. I think Romeo Doubs is my breakout guy for this team. I know Christian Watson, he's a talented wide receiver, but what I'm going is kind of based on where I've been hearing from camp. Like Jordan Love has been targeting Dobbs like crazy in training camp. So if he's able to stay healthy, actually I drafted him over half of my leagues with Romeo Doubs in the Packers. So I think he might be due for a big year this upcoming year.
Yeah, definitely, because I think the Packers are loaded with weapons. I think and I saw Jordan Love make up to 5 reads at Utah State. So I'm looking at that and looking at the arm talent. I'm looking at the fact that Love put everything together. And I'm saying, you know what? The Packers just may pick up where they left off and go 9 and 8. I know they went 8 and 9 last year and lost the Lions in week 18, but Packers just feel like one of these teams that could pick up right where they left off. And the Packers, they play the Bears in week 18. So they get the Bears in week 1, and then they get the Bears in week 18. So I kind of see them as a team that I have them 3-1 after the bye, losing to Denver. I have them beating the Vikings twice, I believe. I have them losing to the Chiefs and the Lions, Pittsburgh, the Giants. No, I only have them beating the Vikings once, but they do play. I think their season's going to be pretty interesting, to say the least. I think the Packers are going to be one of these teams that surprises a lot of people with Jordan Love at quarterback. Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, really good 1-2 punch in the backfield as well. Lions have that too with Montgomery and Gibbs. We'll get to see them against the Chiefs tomorrow.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, I'm going to go to the Bears real quick. With the Bears, obviously, a lot of people are basically saying, oh, well, Justin Fields, put up or shut up and this, things like that. They got DJ Moore, which was much needed. They needed weapons on the offense besides Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet, which I really do like him as a tight end as well. But I'm not a fan of the running backs too much. I mean, they got Dante Foreman; he could break some tackles as well. And they got Herbert, if I'm mistaken, the other running back.
Khalil Herbert, yeah.
Yeah, they have Khalil Herbert, and they have Dante Foreman. That's kind of like the 1-2 punch. We'll see how that kind of plays out down the line. The Bears defense, I mean, it does need some improvement, but they could be competitive, but they're more likely a team that's probably going to get a top 10 pick in this upcoming next draft class. I do like Fields. They'll be competitive here and there, but they're not winning the division. Now, my last team goes to the Minnesota Vikings. In regards with them, I think this team. I like this team offensively. Obviously, you have Kirk Cousins. They're giving the reins to Alexander Madison. We'll see how he does in the backfield this upcoming year. Then they drafted Jordan Addison, which I love the pick. I really do. He's basically taking Cleveland's vacated targets as a number 2 wide receiver behind Justin Jefferson, which I think he's going to have a big year. And then T.J. Hawkinson came in, traded from the Lions. He came out firing,
Yeah.
He came out firing for Minnesota and obviously you see that, and now he's like one of the top 3 tight ends in fantasy football being drafted, or 3 or 4, arguably 3 or 4. So, with that being said, I think, I got the Lions winning the division, and I'm not too sure if one of these teams can make a wild card, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Packers or Vikings make the wild card. I'll make the decision later on. Because I'm not totally sure how this is going to play out. So it's just up in the air with that one. But I do have the Lions win that division, to be honest with you. Now, let's go to the AFC South. I'm not going to go too much into this because, to me, this is Jacksonville's division to lose. I'm just going to say it. The Colts could be competitive. I think Richardson could surprise some people. And from what I'm hearing, people within in the Colts, they love his work ethic. He's been staying there, after practice and whatnot, trying to develop his game as well. Taylor, this whole holdout situation is going to hurt that team. Obviously, I like Michael Pittman, and then my sleeper on that team is Alec Pierce. He's a second-year guy from Cincinnati, if I'm not mistaken, wide receiver. So we'll see what the Colts do in terms of that. Yeah, I'm just so bullish on this Jacksonville Jaguars team heading into the season.
Yeah, the Jaguars are my number 1 record for the regular season. I have the Jaguars going 15-2. I have them losing 2 games to the 49ers and the Browns. So, yeah, I have the Jaguars beating the Chiefs, Bills, and Bengals during the regular season. I have Lawrence winning MVP, but Allen winning Offensive Player of the Year. And, yeah, I think we're going to get a Bills-Jaguars AFC title game. That is my spoiler here. But I've got the Texans at second place at 7-10. Even with the injuries on the offensive line, Titus Howard's out the first 4 games. Juice Scruggs is out the first 4 games. Kenyon Green's out for the season. So they've already got some injuries at left guard, center, and right tackle. The Colts aren't going to have Jonathan Taylor for the first 4 games. I have the Colts at 6-11, and the Titans aren't going to have their right tackle Nicholas Petit-Fourier until week 8 after the Titans' week 7 bye week. So looking at this division, outside of Jacksonville, it is a total abomination. I'm trying to be gentle and delicate to these other challengers in the division, but frankly, I just don't see it, and I think Jacksonville's just going to run away with the division.
I 100% agree.
Even if the Jaguars went 8-9 and had a down year, and Lawrence got injured for the first half of the season, they'd still probably win the division at 8-9. That's the scary thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Then you have the Houston Texans. They're rebuilding, but I'm still curious to see how Stroud does. I love the running back Damian Pierce and D'Amico Ryans. I want to see how he does in terms of fixing up that defense. And they got Will Anderson, which I like as a linebacker, obviously. Then they got C.J. Stroud. John Minchie, I'm excited for him. Battling leukemia, I want to see him play a full season, obviously, with the Texans, and see how he plays out. And then they did sign Dalton Schultz, right, in free agency, the tight end from the Cowboys. So that's going to be interesting in terms of the Houston Texans. I can't wait to see. And Tennessee, I don't know where they're going at quarterback, to be completely honest with you. I like the weapons they surrounded with Hopkins and Burks, and they got I can't pronounce this guy's the tight end from the Titans' name. I can't pronounce it, but I did draft him in one of my leagues because he actually has one of the lowest injury rates for all tight ends in fantasy football. Believe it or not, but he has crazy upside. Because he's very athletic. So,
are you talking about Evan Ingram, the Jaguars tight end?
No, from the Tennessee Titans.
Oh, Chigoziem Okonkwo, second-year tight end out of Maryland. He was a rookie last year, 4th-round pick.
Right. I can't pronounce his name.
No, it's all right, man. Some names are really hard to pronounce, like Ogbonina Okoronkwo, who's is a backup edge rusher on the Browns. I'm back. I was working on getting the download for the North Carolina, South Carolina film cut because we have gotten some requests in scouting college football for Drake May, Spencer Rattler game film. So just getting the MP4 file for that downloaded. And once that is downloaded, I can start editing the Drake May and Spencer Rattler film cuts and upload those to the YouTube channel.
Oh, absolutely. I'll take a look at that.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. We have the Caleb Williams and Dorian Singer ones up, those from San Jose State, but that's week 0. I think week 1's more fun personally. Right. It's unfortunate that the Sunday night and Monday night games ended up being blowouts. I think that really hurt ESPN more than anything else because you were expecting both of those games to be competitive. In the first half, to fair to Clemson, the first half of that game was competitive. Same with LSU, but just absolute carnage and domination by Florida State and Duke in the second half.
Yeah. Well, you kind of know my opinion with Clemson. I kind of put.
Yeah.
You already know my opinion with that. But back to this with Tennessee, the Titans. I mean, they might be competitive because you can't go wrong with Derrick Henry. But it's just Jacksonville's gonna win this division. I don't see none of these teams getting the wild card, so Jacksonville runs away with this division. We'll just leave it at that. We both agree on that.
Yeah. I mean, there were a few members on our staff that picked the Titans in week 1, but that's more because the Saints defensive coordinator is Joe Woods, who was awful as the Browns defensive coordinator. That's more on the Saints defensive coordinator than it actually is praised towards the Titans as contenders. But yeah, I believe the next division we're going to preview is the NFC South, and this is a division where I had all 4 teams at 6-10 heading into the final week of the season back in May. Now, I do not have that happening now. I think the Buccaneers finished last in that division, but can you imagine the chaos that would be happening if all 4 teams in that division were 6-10 entering the final week of the season? Just imagine the chaos that would bring to the league. It'd be great from a rating standpoint, but that would bring a lot of chaos to the league, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, the NFC South is probably the hardest division to pick.
It is.
To be completely honest with you. Because truth be told, I can see Atlanta, I can see Carolina, and I can see New Orleans there. New Orleans defense looks good in the preseason. I'm going to be completely honest with you. It looks good. And then it depends how Derek Carr plays this upcoming year. I like Chris Olave. They drafted the running back, was it Keandre Miller from TCU?
Yeah.
And they got Jamal Williams in free agency. Kamara is probably going to be suspended from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and Keandre Miller had a hamstring injury, so Jamal Williams is going to be the bell cow, at least in the first couple of games of the season.
Right. I don't know if it's official, but I'm hearing Kamara might be suspended for 3 games, but nothing.
That is official.
Oh, it is? Okay. Well, there you go. So he's suspended for the first 3 games, and then obviously Jamal Williams is going to be there. And Keandre Miller, like you said, battling hamstring injury.
Yeah, and I only have the Saints winning the opener against the Titans. I think they lose to both Carolina and Green Bay on the road because that's Jordan Love's home opener. It's a short week for New Orleans following the Monday night game against the Panthers. So that's big for but it's going to be very interesting to see how this division unfolds because I think the Falcons win on Sunday, but I've got the Panthers at 8-9 winning this division. I think Bryce Young's offensive rookie of the year. I do. I think Bryce Young, he really takes it to the next level right out of the gate, and the Panthers end up winning this division. I could see the Saints as well, but Atlanta really doesn't have a number 2 receiver next to Drake London. They got rid of Zacchaeus. I wasn't high on Zacchaeus, but they don't really have anybody else. They replaced him with Mac Hollins. I think Mac Hollins is a downgrade personally. He just dropped too many passes in the Raiders games I watched for me to say he's a legit number 2. They do have Pitts and Jonnu Smith at tight end, and I do like Atlanta's defense, but the injuries at cornerback with Clark Phillips and Jeffrey Okudah, that could hurt them in the early part of the season. But yeah, I think the Falcons, they have a chance to win. They should win on Sunday. I think Bijan Robinson goes off this week, has one of his best games of the year. But I think the rookie of the year will be Bryce Young for offense. And if it's not Bryce Young, it should be Bijan Robinson, who's the overwhelming favorite at this point to win that offensive rookie of the year award.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I agree with you. I was going to say, you can make a case for Bijan Robinson for offensive rookie of the year. Now, I'm going to throw a sleeper out there. I'm going to throw Jordan. I know we talked about NFC North. I'm going to throw Jordan Addison as my sleeper as well.
My sleeper is a player we already talked about. I mean, we didn't really talk about him, but we talked about his team, the Baltimore Ravens rookie wide receiver, Zay Flowers.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. Oh, that's a great point. But yeah, I'm gonna pick the Saints to win the division. I'm gonna pick the Saints.
So two of the 3 rookies that have been named team captains, Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson. And obviously, you can watch those 2 in a QB1 Behind the Lights on Tubi. It's a high school football documentary that follows Young, Richardson, and it follows their quarterback who transferred from Iowa to Kentucky. He's now the backup to Devin Leary at Kentucky. But yeah, those are the 3 quarterbacks they profiled there, and those are the only 2 that have been named team captains so far. I don't know if Stroud's been named team captain yet. If he has, I'll keep you updated of that through Facebook or whatever, but I have not heard anything from that sort. I know on Monday or last week, Richardson got named captain and Bryce Young got named captain for Carolina today.
Yeah. But I might take Carolina to get a wild card. I'm leaning towards that. Yeah, maybe. Okay, but I'll wait down the line for that. So we did the NFC South, we did AFC NFC.
Yeah, I mean the Carolina Panthers. I have them finishing 8-9, but I have them winning 3 of their last 4. I have them losing to Jacksonville in Week 17, but outside that Jacksonville game, they get Tampa Bay, Green Bay and Atlanta at home in weeks 15 through 18. So I think that's a big reason why I'm very bearish on the Panthers, very bullish on the Panthers, I should say. They get the Buccaneers on the road in week 13. I think they win that game. They might lose the Saints in week 14, but if they can beat the Saints in week 14, you're looking at a team that will have won 5 of their last 6 games to end the year. So the Panthers, they are beneficiaries from that easy strength of schedule. So if they can stay in the playoff hunt until week 15, week 16, I think they have a very good chance to peak at the right time late in the season.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, let's go to the AFC West. We have the Chiefs. They're battling some injuries. Obviously, with Travis Kelce hyperextending his knee. According to Jason Kelce, they said he had a bone bruise, if I'm not mistaken. That's being reported by him. Basically his brother. They've obviously played tomorrow against the Lions, so it's going to be interesting. Chiefs are going to be contending. I have the Chiefs winning that division. The Chargers, they're one of my teams to watch because I want to see what Herbert and Kellen Moore becoming the offensive coordinator. They're going to take more shots down the field. He did mention that in interviews this past training camp. In terms of that, Austin Eckler obviously coming back. I know he wants a new deal in terms of his running backs, wanting better pay in regards with that. But he's coming back for another year with this team, so it's gonna be interesting how that plays out. They did draft Quentin Johnson, right, from TCU. So he's, if I'm not mistaken, he's been on the depth chart. He's been on wide receiver 3 or 4 behind.
He began the preseason as wide receiver 4. He's now wide receiver 3. So, yeah, because I had to update all the depth charts after the 53 man roster cuts. So I was able to do that and got all the games up for week 1. Probably going to copy and paste some week 2 matchups, but we got the film too as well. So, yeah, I mean, that's going to be really cool. But yeah, I think this is going to be a 2-team division. I've got the Raiders at 3-14 with the league's worst record, winning the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. So then this division is going to get a whole lot. If the Raiders end up with Caleb Williams, this division is just going to become a whole lot more chaotic because you're going to have Caleb, Mahomes, and Herbert in the same division. And that's just kind of going to leave Russell Wilson as the odd man out. I do have the Broncos going 9-8. But 9-8 is just not going to get them in the playoffs when I have 8 other AFC teams with 10 wins. So, I mean, so that leaves the 2-11-6 teams, the Chargers and the Chiefs. And I've got the Chiefs winning this division. I have them going 5-1 in the division. I have the Chargers going 3-3 in the division. And even though I think the Chargers have the better depth chart on paper, and I think Kellen Moore is going to surprise a lot of people, Chiefs will still find a way to win this division with both teams at 11-6. So, and I don't think the Kelce injury is that big of a deal. I mean, right now, the Jaguars are my 1 seed. I've got the 7-seed Jets taking on the 2-seed Bills, 6-seed Browns taking on the 3-seed Bengals, and 5-seed Chargers taking on the 4-seed Chiefs. I know Roger Goodell is hoping my scenario becomes reality because then you have 3 divisional AFC matchups on Wild Card Weekend. That is a win for the NFL. I don't care how you twist that, how you push the agenda. That is a win for the league. If they can get 3 divisional matchups in the AFC for Wild Card Weekend, that is a win. I would guess the league would put 1 game on Saturday night, 1 on Sunday night, and 1 on Monday night, and just spread the wealth out there. But yeah, I mean, if Chris Jones misses the first 8 games of the season, his season debut would be in Germany against the Dolphins in week 9. I mean, if he holds out that long, I'm not saying he will, but if he does, the game in Germany would be the debut for Chris Jones at this moment. So we'll see what happens with that because it is kind of a big loss. 15.5 sacks from Jones last year, and the guy replacing him only had 1 sack. And Derek Nottie, the player who started next to Chris Jones, had 0 sacks. So, that's kind of concerning that you're not going to have him these first 4 games. I think the Chiefs should be okay at home against the Bears and Lions, but they're going to have problems with the Jets and Jaguars on the road, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Chargers, I think Chargers will be competitive. Chiefs win a division. Raiders, yeah, I think Raiders will be. They're going to get at least a top 3 pick, and the Broncos will be competitive. But I have the Chargers as my last wild card, AFC. That's all my wild cards. I have Bengals, Bills, and Chargers. Those are my wild cards for the AFC. Those are my wild cards. Chiefs winning the division. Raiders, getting those Raiders, obviously getting a top 3 pick at least. Obviously, I'm going, projected to go number 1. So we'll see how that plays out. Now let's go to the NFC West. Obviously, you have the Niners. They went to the NFC Championship game. Trey Lance gets traded to the Cowboys. That's going to be interesting. So now Sam Darnold is the number 2 quarterback behind Brock Purdy. They have I read that they have Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell. Elijah Mitchell he's coming back off an injury, so hopefully he's healthy because he has some talent. You have Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and you have George Kittle as well. Fred Warner on defense. I like the Niners. I'm actually picking them to win the division. Seahawks will be competitive, but they'll miss the playoffs.
Yep. I've got a very interesting scenario here. So at 4-13, I have the Cardinals. I have Caleb Williams coming back in Week 15 following the Cardinals' Week 14 bye week, and I have him winning I have him winning his first game in Week 15 against the 49ers in an upset. I have him losing the next 2 games, and I have him beating Seattle in Week 18 to screw the Cardinals out of the number 1 pick. Go figure. Kyler Murray comes back in Week 18, and he ends up screwing the Cardinals out of the number 1 pick, a la Lovie Smith. That would be
funny.
I'm not going to lie. That would be pretty hilarious. And I've got the Rams at 6-11. And at 8-9, getting my final wild card, it is the Seahawks. Yeah. I only have 4 NFC teams with winning records this year. The 49ers, the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Lions, and the Packers. So I have 5 NFC teams with winning records, only 3 NFC teams with 10 or more wins, and 5 NFC teams with winning records, with the 8-9 Panthers winning the NFC South and the 8-9 Seahawks getting the final wild card. And I think if the Seahawks went 8-9 and still got a wild card, that would be enough for Seattle to draft a quarterback. I don't think it would be enough for them to replace Geno Smith outright, though. But it would be enough for them to get his successor.
Yeah. No. I definitely agree. You know what? I have the Seahawks in the playoffs. I mean, as a wild card. Niners win a division. The Rams, I think the Rams get a top 15 pick. And I'm going to make a bold prediction. Aaron Donald will be traded somewhere in the season.
I feel that way about Cooper Kupp, to be honest. But, it's going to be interesting because I honestly couldn't pick a 7th team for the NFC. It's just that underwhelming this year. I mean, if the Seahawks lose to the Rams in Week 1, the 7-10 Rams would jump the 7-10 Seahawks for my final wild card, or would the Vikings get it? I kind of want to go in the simulator. I'm not going to do it, though, but if the Rams win, we'll probably update the simulator, and it'll probably have the Vikings, Bears, Rams, or Seahawks at 7-10 as the final wild card. And, if we have a 7-10 team as the 7th seed in the NFC, this is an underwhelming conference compared to its AFC counterpart. But I think it's going to be a very interesting and very entertaining NFL season, for sure, regardless of what ends up happening.
I got my wild card. Vikings, Seahawks, and Carolina Panthers.
Interesting. So the wild card matchups on playoff predictors for me are I mentioned the divisional games in the AFC and the Packers-Lions divisional game. 7-seed Seahawks face 2-seed Cowboys, and we've got the Eagles heading to Carolina. Jalen Hurts versus Bryce Young. That would be an absolute clinic. And I've got the Eagles beating the Niners in the divisional round in San Francisco. So, and I've got the Lions losing to Dallas. So, and then I've got the Bills and Jaguars meeting the AFC title. The Jaguars knock out the Chiefs. The Bills get revenge on the Bengals for last year's playoff loss. And then the Bills go to Jacksonville, break Jaguars fans' hearts, and then the Cowboys beat the Eagles in AT&T. So that sets up that end of it. So definitely going to be interesting to see how that ends up playing out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now let's get into the award winners. MVP, I'm picking a limb. I'm going Lamar Jackson.
I'm going Trevor Lawrence. I think I think Allen leads the league in passing yards, but here's the thing. If the Bills are 13-4 and the Jaguars are 15-2, it just feels like the league is going to give Lawrence the MVP. I don't like it, but that's just how the league is now. So
I definitely get where you're coming from. Now, offensive rookie of the year, I'm going Bijan Robinson. What about you?
I'll go Bryce Young, quarterback, Carolina Panthers. Play devil's advocate here.
Okay. Now for let's go with defensive rookie of the year.
I'm going to go Jalen Carter, Philadelphia Eagles. Will Anderson could be a dark horse candidate as well, but I think if the Eagles make the playoffs again and Jalen Carter has 7 to 10 sacks, I think it's his award to lose.
No, I got you. I'm trying to figure out who do I have as defensive rookie. This was a tough one for me, to be honest with you. You know what? I'm gonna take a long shot. I'm gonna take Christian Gonzalez, the corner from the New England Patriots.
That's a good one. Some other guys that could be in the mix. Mozzie Smith, the Dallas Cowboys first-round pick out of Michigan. If the Cowboys improve their run defense, that's a name to watch. Jack Campbell, middle linebacker, Iowa, is another dark horse name to keep an eye on. And one more, I'll throw into the ringer, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, the edge rusher from Kansas State. The Chiefs took 32nd overall. He's another player he's going to be starting right away too, because Charles Omenihu, the free agent, the Chiefs got suspended the first 6 games. So Anudike-Uzomah is another name to keep an eye on this Chiefs defense that just continues to add youth and talent. So, yeah.
Okay. Now for our offensive rookie of the year, we go offensive player of the year. I don't know if we should go. I'm gonna throw Trevor Lawrence in there, just because for that.
I'm going to throw Josh Allen in. I think Allen has more passing yards than Lawrence, but Lawrence wins more games. So the NFL says we'll give Lawrence MVP and Allen Offensive Player of the Year, and they'll both make it out like rock stars.
Defensive Player of the Year, I'm going Myles Garrett.
I'm going Fred Warner. I've got the 49ers middle linebacker winning Defensive Player of the Year. So the 49ers have back-to-back Defensive Players of the Year, and Fred Warner ends up winning the award, leading the league in tackles.
Nice. Now let's get to our Super Bowl prediction. You go ahead and start it off.
I've got the Cowboys over the Bills, and I've got a surprise Super Bowl MVP candidate. I mean, if you tell Jerry Jones this player is going to win Super Bowl MVP, he's probably going to laugh at you until you flee out of AT&T Stadium. But I've got Deuce Vaughn, the Kansas State rookie running back, winning Super Bowl MVP when the Cowboys beat the Bills. First running back since Terrell Davis to win MVP, and it approaches the 30th anniversary when Emmitt Smith won Super Bowl MVP in Atlanta over the Bills. So I've got Deuce Vaughn winning Super Bowl MVP as a rookie running back for the Cowboys.
Interesting. I do like Deuce Vaughn a lot. So to me, that was a good pick for the Cowboys. Okay. Ugh. I'm gonna go down the line real quick before we end this. I don't believe Kansas City goes back to the Super Bowl. I think them losing Frank Clark as a pass rush is gonna hurt them.
Yeah.
To be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna hurt them.
They lost Orlando Brown to the Bengals at left tackle too. That's the reason why I didn't pick them to go back to the Super Bowl. I think the Bills, the Bengals, the Jaguars are the three best teams in the AFC this year.
Yeah, and I just don't see the Chiefs going back to the Super Bowl, which leads me to a couple of teams. 3 of them. Cincinnati, Baltimore.
I could see the Ravens if they get in the playoffs. I could see them making a run. I don't trust their defense, but I think their offense is incredible.
Right. And I'm going to throw Buffalo. Those are the 3 teams I see. My dark horse team is Miami. I know, call me crazy. Something about this. Miami is my dark horse. But call me a homer. I'm taking Baltimore to go to the Super Bowl. Purpose of the AFC. And for the NFC, I have Baltimore. I have a rematch of the Super Bowl: 49ers versus Ravens. Back in 2012, when the Super Bowl.
I think the Ravens go to New Orleans next year. I think they're a year away, but I think the Ravens could be a strong candidate to go to New Orleans. And maybe we get another power outage Super Bowl in New Orleans if the Ravens go back. But, yeah, I think the Ravens, that's a good pick. Ravens, 49ers. That'd be crazy if we had another power outage in Las Vegas.
Right. And obviously that was the last Super Bowl they won back in 2012.
Yeah, but if they had a power outage, would the flame go out or would the flame still be there, but the lights are just dim? Because they got that flame in the background at Allegiant Stadium.
Right, they do, and I believe it's like electric or something like that, where supposedly it's like a switch to turn that flame on. If I'm not mistaken.
That's pretty neat. Yeah, I didn't know about that. I got the tour Allegiant Stadium when I was at the Shrine Bowl. It's a pretty fun trip in Las Vegas, but yeah. So this is the top 5 of the draft order according to the Playoff Predictor Simulator. The Raiders are at 1, the Buccaneers are at 2, the Cardinals are at 3, the Commanders are at 4, and the Falcons ended up at 5 despite going 6-11. They ended up winning tiebreakers over the Colts, Titans, and Rams to end up getting that number 5 pick. I don't think the Falcons, even if they were 6-11, I don't think they are bad enough to warrant a top 5 pick, but that's just how the simulator ended up playing it out. And then the Saints at 9 and the Bears at 10 ended up with the last 2 picks in the top 10. So I don't agree with this, but that's just how it ended up playing out. So, yeah.
Right. Oh, I have another big prediction. I think there's going to be 2, maybe 3 trades going to happen in the Super Bowl. Shocker. Aaron Donald gets traded. Another one is Mike Evans. I'm going to call it right now. Mike Evans will be traded to the Kansas City Chiefs.
That'd be interesting. I heard every team in the NFL called about Mike Evans this week. Only one team offered a 3rd-round pick for Evans. It was the Giants. But the Buccaneers were like, "Nah, we want a first. We think Mike Evans warrants a 1st-round pick." Nobody's going to give you a 1st-round pick for Mike Evans. You should have taken the deal the Giants gave you, because you look at the receivers in this year's draft. You've got Dorian Singer. You've got the Will Shepard, the Vanderbilt receiver. And you got there's another receiver projected to go in the 3rd round of the NFL draft this year. I think Mario Williams, the other USC receiver, is projected to go in round 3. Honestly, I think you screwed up there, Tampa. I think you should have taken that 3rd-round pick, because honestly, that's a bargain for Mike Evans at this point. I would have probably taken I don't even think I would have given up a 3rd-round pick. If I were an NFL GM, I probably would have lowballed Tampa and been like, "Look, we'll give you a 4th, or not giving you a third. So I'm amazed that one front office actually did offer the Buccaneers a third round pick. I'm even more amazed that the Buccaneers said no to that, because that is you're ripping off the other team at that point. You can still get a good player in the third round of next year's draft. Plus, if you want Drake May or Caleb Williams, moving Evans now increases your odds of that happening.
Yeah, no, exactly. But yeah, the reason why I have him going to Kansas City, I think there's going to be some injuries to the wide receiver position. They need a wide receiver, to kind of help out Patrick Mahomes. I have Mike Evans being traded to the Kansas City Chiefs. That's my bold prediction. And then Aaron Donald will get traded. Those are my bold predictions. I might have mentioned the third one, but I can't put my finger on it. But hopefully we'll do one pretty soon, or at the very least.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of who could get traded. I'm looking at the teams in the top 5 of my mock draft: Raiders, Buccaneers, Cardinals, Commanders, Falcons. We both agree Evans will probably get dealt in that scenario. I think the Raiders would probably Chandler Jones is probably the guy they would move, since he hasn't really reported to camp. I think the best player on the Cardinals right now is probably their strong safety, Budda Baker, their defensive captain. Would they be willing to move him for an extra day 2 pick in 2024? Because right now, that's really the only player you can trade and get a day 2 pick for at this point. That's how bad the Cardinals roster is. Commanders, maybe they move Chase Young. Maybe they move Chase Young at the deadline if they're out of contention. I'll throw that name out there as a dark horse. And the Falcons, I don't know who the Falcons would trade at this point, to be honest. I just don't know who they would move or who they could move on their roster, to be completely honest. I think they would try to move Bud Dupree, the edge rusher. I don't know. I think they would try to move a player in a contract year for a higher pick if they're out of contention. But I see them as a team that's going to do well early in the season, go 4-4 at the week 8 point, and then struggle in the second half. So I don't really think, if they're 4-4 at week 8, I don't think they'll make a move at the deadline, and then they'll end up struggling the second half. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But that does it for tonight's podcast. Thank you for joining. Chris, go ahead and plug them with your socials.
Yeah, Draft Utopia. You can like our Facebook page, subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter at Draft Utopia. We got an Instagram page. Also, I did live stream this using the Restream.io app, so you could listen to the part from the NFC East to the end of the show on our Facebook Live page, on Twitch, on Kick. You'll be able to hear Emmanuel as well as myself. Only difference is you get the visuals from my live stream and Emmanuel's voice on the phone call. That's really the only distinction. But yeah, once Emmanuel sends me a link to his show, I'm going to probably include that in the link and description for this, so that you can listen to the entirety of the show. Because it's just a courteous thing to do, like if you're gonna live stream somebody else's podcast that they invite you on, you owe it to yourself to link their show. It's just, not only is it a courteous thing to do, it's the right thing to do. And I'll wait for Emmanuel to send me that link. But yeah, we're signing off. Thank you for having me on, Emmanuel. I'm looking forward to another epic NFL season in 2023.
Yeah, absolutely. And I should be almost submitted tomorrow. I'm working on it tomorrow morning.
All right. Sounds good.
I'm working on sending the file.
Yeah, that means I'll promote the Restream link tomorrow. Then once you send me the link, I won't promote it on Facebook now. I'll wait till tomorrow.